Okay, here we go. I want to welcome you to a Wd Gann research project. This is a Series 3, the Wheel of 24, also known as the Universal Clock. We want to expose the truth behind the myth. The Wheel of 24, also known as circles or the Wheel of 24 or the Universal Clock, has many applications to the market, or so they say. There is a theory to that. And we're going to take a look at all the different ones. And I guess in order to do that, first thing I want to do is go over the tools. So in Chapter 1, we're going to review the tools that we're going to use. Okay, so the first thing we want to look at is Dunamis charts. It's a squaring chart program. It's got some great attributes to the market. You need to have a program that is square in price and time, or relatively close, because otherwise your planetary information is not going to be accurate. It will not relate truly to the price. Next thing you want to take a look at is Astrolog. Hey, it's a great program. Just type in your search engine Astrolog. You'll come to the home page, download it. It's great freeware. It's got some great information, very reliable, and you can do some things with it to save you a lot of time. Now we want to take a look at the Wheel of Degrees. This will be a little bit different. And we also have a numerical wheel. And I will explain the difference and the applications of these tools. Here we go with Chapter 2. We're going to try and get this right, and I will speed it up. Leave me alone. Okay, Chapter 2, chart setups. Astrolog. We want to make sure everyone's on the same page, using the same information, at least for the validity of this test. Okay, here we go. Astrolog, up in the info there, you need to change some information depending on where you are. So we want to set the chart information. You can pick any month, day, year. Daylight savings time, I typically pick no if I'm going to be doing something that is longer than, an hourly chart or something. Monthly, yearly, there's no sense changing it back and forth. Time zone, you can put anything you want. I focus on New York. That's where most of the energy is, how I feel anyways. And the latitude and longitude for that. Longitude is 74 west, latitude is 45 north. You can put in anything you want. Chicago, whatever you're focusing on, it all depends. The time, a lot of people have different ideas what they should do with the time. I think noon is the high energy point, so I use noon. All right, so there we have that information set up. Now we need to go into the settings. And as you can see what I have circled there, heliocentric, the minors, and the cusp, and the calculation settings all need to be changed. So we want to uncheck the minors and the cusp, check the heliocentric, and change our calculation settings. And there we have it changed. I have unchecked the minors and the cusp. Heliocentric is checked. Boy, if I could only talk today. Okay. And now we need to change the calculation settings. Now the calculation settings we want to change to make it easier on ourselves. So we want to change that from the zodiac position to the 360 degrees. This will give us a much easier, bigger, better time-saving thing. I can't think straight. Holy cow. All right, here we go. That's where you get your information. You can confirm the information on the top and use the data on the bottom. Closer look at that. There you go. We have it set up Friday, November 19, 2004. Heliocentric. And of course, the planetary information, you have all of them there. Because it's heliocentric, it's centered around the sun. So we have the Earth in there as a planet. Now, geocentric, you would have the sun in there as a planet because it is Earth-centered. Okay, on to our charts. Dunamis charts. We're going to take a look at the Dow Jones weekly. This is the DJX. It's a reflective of, it's like a fraction of it, 1/100th. But it fits well with the numbers, so it'll be easier for the chart setup for the first go-around. We'll go through a couple of these. I'll get a little bit more complicated as we go along, but you'll have a greater understanding. And as you can see, the DJX weekly. All right, here's what we want to do. We want to gather our information off the Astrolog. And specifically, we want to relate the degrees that are now in the circle area, as you can see there, onto the chart. Okay, now our chart, we of course use Dunamis charts, it's squares. Okay, so our chart we have currently is the Dow Jones Industrial I guess, a DJX weekly chart, and we're running the chart from 3/28/2003 to 12/8/2004. He's done wrecking me now. Okay, here we go. We're going to run our chart from 6/6/03, June 6th, 2003, all the way across the bottom to December there. December 3rd, actually 2004. We're going to take a look and see if there's any relevance to this at all. All right, we want to put our data together in a series. Typically what I do is I line out all the dates on a sheet. Starting on May 2nd, I run it all the way down every day. This is a weekly chart. So we're going to do, to save some time, we're going to plot the first Friday of every month. And we're going to do that all the way to December 3rd, 2004. All right, as you can see, I picked the planets Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. That's typically how I'll lay out a sheet. Basically, I'll hand draw it. Hey, if you want to type it up and do whatever, make it pretty, that's fine. But this way, it saves you a lot of time and aggravation. You just lay out the lines. You can even do a Mylar and lay it over the different ones as long as your charts are the same. All right, so here we get our information from Astrolog, May 2nd, 2003. There's all the planetary information. We lay that right out, right on the chart. Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. Or right on our spreadsheet, or however you want to say it. And we continue right on down the line with all the dates. I'm only showing these three just to keep it simplified. You really need to take some time and go through and do this, practice it a couple times, get a feel for it. Then you'll have a much better understanding of how it works. There again, we got our information from Astrolog on June 6, 2003. Has your planets right there, all of them, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. Your December 3rd information, same thing. You take it from there and you plot it right on your sheet. And after you have collected all this data, now you can start laying it out. So there you go. We grab our chart and we want to lay out our lines on there. The conversions are a little tricky, so we'll go over those a little bit slower the first time, but we'll speed this up as we go along. So bear with me on this first setup. Our chart is a weekly chart. As you can see, the months are labeled. The first Friday of every month is what we're going to plot. Our price range starts at $81. Now this particular chart moves one price per line, $1 per line. And that'll save us a lot of headaches, so we'll know, because it's a square chart, so it should come out relatively accurate. And we want to start with May. And there we go. We have laid out the Saturn at 90.6 degrees. And basically I just counted up. And I did round off the information a little bit. I find that a little bit easier, actually a lot easier if you do that, especially on the long-term charts. You want to keep it simple as possible. You want to lay out some lines. You want to see where it's going. You can always focus in on a narrow area. Nail it down to daily, hourly, however you want to do it, as specific as you want. My applications for this are to try and keep it as simple as possible. There are other tools that can make things a lot easier, more accurate, and more time efficient. All right, so we just want to keep laying those out. There we go. Saturn, June 6, 2003 at 92. Basically, you kind of have the angle. You know where it's going. This is heliocentric, so you don't have to worry about retrograde or direct, so you just keep plotting those points. All the way down your list. There's your data. You just keep going. All the way to December 3, 2004. And that we had plotted at 112.3 degrees. And that gives you a nice line. Now, if you look at the line in and of itself, it's kind of interesting how it relates to that price, just kind of hanging along there. Now, remember, we're laying this out on a numerical wheel. This is not the wheel of degrees. So numerically, there is a difference, and I guess I'll show you. In the meantime, let's take a look at some channels. We're going to lay another line in. You can lay the lines every 24 points or every 12 or however you want to divide them up. They are relative to each other. So we take a look at the channel. As you can see, the top arrow there, it bounced out of that channel a little bit, came back into it. Now there's reasons for all this, and as you get further into it, you can kind of tell where it's going. All right, so let's lay out some Mars lines. Mars is going to be a faster moving planet, so the angle is going to be steeper. So we're just going to pick a few points and find out where they intersect with the Saturn line. So we get our information off Astrolog. As you can see, it is 300.441 degrees on July 4th, 2003. And now we need to go to the wheel because it's not going to be a straight conversion. When your price does not match the planet degrees, you need to convert it on the wheel. And it's fairly simple. If you look, there we have circled 300. We have just rounded this off to 300. And that is relative to the 84. Your plot point is circled there. Now that point is a division of 300. And the multiplier, or add, subtract, however you want to look at it, is 24. This is a wheel of 24. If it's a wheel of 36, it would be in increments of 36. If it was in 12, it would be increments of 12. Okay. I'm getting the thing there to calm down. Anyways, all right. So there we go. 84 is going to be our plot point. Now we go back to August 1st. That's going to be our next plot point. There we go. 317.891. Now we travel around the wheel. And as you're expanding with degrees, you're expanding in price. So you need to keep going out farther on the wheel. As the wheel counts out, you just keep going right around. So we take a closer look at that. And we rounded off the price to 318. And we want to find out what's relative to that plot point. And that would be 102. So we plot both those points. And we find an intersection on the wheel. Now there looks to be some kind of price action there. But let's take a little bit more in-depth look. Laid out a couple more lines. And as you can see, course, I laid them out so they would cross the Saturn line. Now, if you notice where the intersection is, you will notice there is price action. Here I've added another line, and even though the intersection is not very close to the price, you can tell at that intersection there is some price action in the price down below it. Kind of interesting. All right, so we threw on some Jupiter lines. And we plotted them the same way, back and forth. You have your sheet, you just go and you plot them. And typically, I will start with these 3 planets, sometimes Uranus. If I'm looking for a channel, I have found the numerical wheel works much better for timing than does the degree wheel, and doesn't work quite as well for channeling as the degree wheel works great for channeling. But here we go. That's my finding of the studies. You might want to do some further research. I'm going to show you all the different ways that I've played with it and understood it, and then you can take it from there. It's very interesting. There is some more advanced information, and if somebody's interested enough to know this well enough, they can contact me and I will give that to them. You can contact me at markettimingmail@yahoo.com. Anyways, the Jupiter lines, there we go. I've laid those out. And of course, as you can see, there is an intersection between Saturn and Jupiter, and there is some price action. Now, it seems that when the slower planets, which are the outer planets, intersect, that change has a longer trend. So, keeping that in mind, faster planets, faster cycles, so forth. Okay, here we go. We have a Mars-Jupiter intersection. And does it create some kind of action? Is that the actual vibration that caused the price to change? I don't know, but it's very interesting that it does time out that way. Mars-Saturn, again, there is another price action. There's almost a complete cycle there. Mars-Jupiter again. You know, whether something is truly happening because of that or not, it's amazing how it falls into play that there is some kind of intersection when there is some price action. And here again, Mars-Saturn. Now the price action, I'm not talking about just one day up or something. I'm talking about something that actually changes trends for a couple days, something that's swing tradable. That's what I'm looking for, are things that are tradable. Okay, anyways, back to this. Mars-Saturn. There you go. Very interesting. Chapter 3. We're going to use a numerical wheel and lay out a geocentric chart. We're going to use the oil index, And we're going to do a daily chart this time. And there you can see I have laid out a Uranus channel. I have marked where it goes direct. I would mark typically where it goes retrograde. There are advantages to laying out what is happening astrologically also. There is a different series for that. Contact me, I can get that to you. Anyways, let's take a look at this. Okay, what we want to change, if you look at the screen, is the heliocentric. We need to change that to geocentric, so you want to click that, have an arrow there, or a check mark. And that'll show up where you confirm your information. And as you can see, it says geocentric there. Again, geocentric is Earth-centered. Now, the big difference between Earth-centered and Sun-centered is Earth-centered. If you look out in the sky, sometimes the planets might look like they're moving backwards. They call that a retrograde. When it's direct, it's normal. It's, you know, it doesn't really go backwards. It's just an optical illusion from Earth. But how it affects Earth is kind of, I guess, up for other studies. Anyways, here's our information. We want to look right here. We have Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, right there. Uranus 333 degrees. Okay, now our scale, as you can see on our chart, is from 355 on up. I have it set up so that there's $5, or the price unit, I guess, would be 5, which means for every line it's 5 points, $5, however you want to set it up. Okay, so back to this Uranus. 333 degrees. Now we find that on the wheel. We need to convert this again because it is outside the normal 360 degree wheel. Now I have different wheels, so I can easily go beyond that, and there's many programs and, you know, if you need more information on getting wheels and stuff like that, just drop me an email. I can point you in the right direction. Okay, so now we change the wheel. As you can see, the 333 is still in the same spoke on the wheel, but the wheel has grown. It's just a bigger wheel. It keeps continuing. It is still in divisions of 24. It's still the numerical wheel. So all those numbers, 525, 549, 573, all those are divisions of 24. And as you can see, right on down the line to 669. Okay, so we want to take that 333 and find a plot point. And there we go. We can bump it up 1, but we got to remember as we're going along, progressing on the chart, as we go along, we have to remember that we have moved that up 1 price. We can't fall into the category of keeping the price within that same wheel. Okay? That's why it's called wheels and wheels. You have to spin out of the wheel into the next wheel. Plot points. 357, 429. Now, we continue to go back and forth, just like we did in the other chart, between the astrolog. We lay out the sheet, the spreadsheet, and now we have our plot points, then we lay them out on the chart. So there we go. Now we have our chart. There is the Uranus channel. Now, this looks really well. It stays within that channel really well. Big channel, though. So here we go. Now we've added more lines. We've done the same thing with Mars, and we've added some more Uranus lines. Now those are all divisions of 24. Actually, the top to the bottom is 360 degrees apart, and those are divisions of in between. As you can see, even with the narrower channel, it stayed in there pretty well. But then take a look at how Mars affected that. You'd almost think it was staying in the Mars channel too, because where it intersected, it kind of changed with the resistance and stuff. Okay, so now I laid another Mars line to create some kind of channel, because I am, I guess, thinking it could be staying within the Mars channels. Now, when they go through the different planetary channels, sometimes they'll switch and grab onto a different channel for a short time. But as the research has shown me, the quicker the planet moves, the less time it'll stay in a channel and the less effect it'll have. Okay, so here we go. Let's take a look at where it intersected. Mars intersected Uranus. And as you can see, there is price action. Okay, now the question mark in the end is, what's going to happen with that? Is there going to be a price change or is there not? Another thing you'll notice is, I don't know if it times it out to the exact day, but there is some kind of trend change. All right. We want to find something tradable. So what we want to do is we want to take a closer look at an area. Now, I zoomed in on the chart. As you can see, November to December, and there was a trend change. Now that change happened at the intersection of a Mars-Uranus crossing. Now, there are other ways to dial that in to know if it's going to be a trend change or not, or a good probability of a trend change. So I'm kind of curious to know if there was any direct influence of that intersection or if it was something else. So we're going to keep working on it. And I can't talk today. Sorry, you can edit that out, right? Anyways, I use squares. Big into squares. I actually use all the geometric shapes. And if you go through all the series, you'll see how I interrelate them. Anyways, at the end of the square, my square is laid out with the blue. I had to change Uranus to yellow because I have my squaring program on there. At the end of that square and at that intersection is a change in price. Was that a dramatic pause or what? I'm getting a lot of hassle here. Okay, dramatic pause left out. There you go. There was a change in trend, whether it's breaking out of a channel, and as you saw earlier, it was in the Uranus channel. If it's breaking out of a channel or whatever it is, it did that on the end of a square at that intersection. Interesting. All right, let's roll right into Chapter 4. We're going to use the heliocentric and the degree wheel. Now, this is going to be a little bit different. The degree wheel is a little bit, not harder to follow, but a little more complicated in the fact that you're using actual planet degrees, and the price has to stay within a certain range. And I'll show you what I mean by all that. Okay, this is the degree wheel. Looks the same as the other wheel, except for a few things. It counts off the 1, 2, 3, 4, and it keeps going right around the wheel, the same as the other one, in divisions of 24. The difference is the planet can change 15 degrees per a unit change in price. Now, follow along with me on this. The planet moves 1 degree. It only changes the price 0.0667. Now, on the other wheel, when the planet moves 1 degree, it actually moves 1 on the chart. So if it moved 24 degrees, it went all the way around the wheel already. Okay? This does not. It doesn't even move 2 spokes on the wheel because that's only 30 degrees. Okay? So here we go. If the planet moves 1 degree, the price changes 0.0667. How we get that is there's 15 degrees per 1 price unit change. So we divide that. 1 price unit divided by 15 degrees gives us the 0.0667. So now when you're figuring the price, you have to look at if it falls on the 1 and it's 15.5 degrees, it has to equal a division of that degree, or 0.0667. That you have to multiply times the leftover, okay, of the whole. Okay, so let's try and lay this out. Now follow along with me here. I know if it seems confusing, I don't know, watch it a couple times or give me an email. I can walk you through some of this stuff too. It's a lot easier to do if you actually have this stuff up and you kind of follow along and do it at the same time. Okay, here's our chart. And what we wanted to do was we wanted to find 1 cycle. And typically the degree wheel works very well with channels, so we're going to focus on channels, but we're also going to look for timing stuff. But here we go. We wanted to get 1 cycle, so we're starting at that February, March area, and we're running it actually to December. So we zoom in on that. There we have our complete cycle. Now we need to start laying out the planetary information. We have to keep, I guess, in mind the fact of our price range. Okay, so here we go. We have the information. We're going to start with Saturn. So let's take a look at Saturn at 88.581. Now we rounded that off to 88.6 degrees. There it is on the wheel. Now if you look at the wheel, you will notice that we have it in degrees. We did not count it off. It is in between 75 and 90 degrees. Okay, 86 degrees equals $437 $437.91 in price. Now, almost 438. Now, how I got that was I took the 0.6 degrees and I multiplied that times our multiplier, the 0.0667, and that gave us our change for the price, which you then add on to the 437, which is right under the 75 degrees. Okay, now keeping in mind our price zone, as I have highlighted there, which goes on this chart in increments of 10. So our price range is $10 per line, all the way from the 900s into the 1300s. So let's take a closer look. See how we have to lay that out? Excuse me. All right, we have $437.91 in price. Now we're going to add 360 to that. We're going to completely go around the wheel, and we're going to lay that out. Now you could lay out another one at another 360 degrees out. You could also lay out one 180 degrees out, or even in any multiple of 24, and you would still be accurate on the wheel as long as you stay within that degree. Okay, so there we go. We've laid out those lines. And we, again, Saturn channels, and here we go. Very interesting if you take a look at that. Now here I've laid out a Mars channel. And as you can see, the Mars, when you're using the degree wheel, because the degree wheel itself is actually a slower scale, the angle of the planets are less steep. Boy, if that makes any sense. I hope somebody's following along. Okay, so there we have our different channels right there, Mars and Saturn. Interesting though, when you look at the support and resistance levels of Saturn, it seems like it actually holds that in there. And this is off the degree wheel. Okay, here we go. We have a little breakout. And as you can see, it still looks like it had to fight to get through that Saturn line, and then it had to bounce through there, just like the previous one in the earlier part of that channel, if you look. Okay, now I've laid a Mars line on there too. It seems to be fighting right along the Saturn and Mars line, like right in between there, almost like it did in the beginning of that trend. Okay, so I decided to put some tighter channels in there, and as you can see, I'm working my way down in different divisions of that 24. So I'll reduce it from 360 degrees around the wheel to 180 to 90, and I'll see if I can fine-tune that channel. If I can fine-tune that channel, and I know it's running in the channel for a long period of time, I know when it breaks out of that channel, it's going to be strong. Okay, take a look here. It fought out of the, it was fighting to get out of that Saturn channel, bounced right off that Mars, came right back in. Now here it went below the Mars again. Okay, at this point, you know it's trying to stay in that Mars channel because it's fighting that. It's fighting, and you can see how it's basically coming to a boiling point because the angles of those planets are squishing that price together. And then, of course, it burst out right there. It had enough energy to get through the Saturn line and then through the Mars line. That, to me, is intriguing. Now, when you start applying all the different tools and techniques and you use stuff like this, it's amazing that it can give you some kind of direction into an approximation of where the price should be in the future. Okay, now let's put a little bit faster planet on there. Being that it's a degree wheel and it moves slower, we want to see some steeper angles. So here we go, we put in Mercury. Now I just picked Mercury, and actually I just picked all the charts, although I know no one will believe that. But here we go, let's look at the different things with Mercury. Now, where Mercury crossed, you would almost say timing, the intersections, you can tell that there is some price action. Now that price action was maybe what gave it the energy to boost it through that support or resistance level. That I find very interesting also. Okay, so here we have circled some more market action that relates directly with that intersection. I just don't know what to say about that. What do you think? What's your opinion on that? I mean, it's very interesting. Okay, I think I stopped all the interruptions. Let's keep rocking and rolling here. Okay, so here we are, Chapter 5. Okay. You know how to lay everything out. You know where we get the information. You know how to convert it on the wheel. So we're going to move right along and analyze the chart a little bit more. So here we go. We have laid out Saturn lines. Now, I have marked on here where Saturn goes retro and Saturn goes direct. there's some very interesting trend changes that happen in that in and of itself. Now that study is done on a different series. There's advanced astrological information, and that is interesting to see too. We kind of go along and do the same thing, pick it apart. I have not found a computer program that is true to the astrological methods that I use. So I've tried quite a few of them and haven't found any that really work. It's actually better. You get a feel for it if you do it by hand. There are some simple tricks to doing it though. Different series. Back to this. Saturn lines. Looks like a nice channel. Let's take a further look. Okay, first I guess we're going to look at the circle there and look at that trend change. I don't know if it's actually a trend change or what it is, but there is a leg of a trend there from Saturn going retro until it goes direct. Now, does that repeat? You might want to spend some time, go through history, historical prices, and find out. Okay, now here Saturn goes retro again, and it looks like it's breaking out. Hell, it bursts right through that Saturn resistance line. All right, we got to analyze this a little bit farther anyways. Let's go take a step back, get away from the astrology, and look at the planetary lines as support and resistance. So we laid out some Mars lines. Now again, the degree wheel, the Mars angles are not as steep, the lines anyways. And as you can see, we have a very interesting channel. Okay, so let's take a look at where these intersections are that I've highlighted there. And as you can see, where the intersection is does not quite call like a top or a bottom. It's like a few days before or after. But it's interesting that there is some kind of change. This kind of goes along with why I don't use them for timing. The numerical one I found times better. But look at that channel. Now, could you ask for a better channel? These are just two planets. Now, you can get different action with different planets. You'll have to try different setups to get a better understanding of it. Each market has a unique planetary, I guess, lines and placements and action that happens directly relative to it. So you need to do a little bit of research on it. I've kind of given you a hint on a few different ones. If you want to work on one in particular, feel free to email me. I can take a look at it and see. Give it my own little analysis. Okay, so anyways, let's move right along. The Mars channel. Now, I want you to take a look at what that trend is doing in there. Right from that intersection, son of a gun. Okay, is this going to keep going? I sure hope so. Okay, so here we go. Back to our analysis here. We're going to take a look at that trend. Okay. And, of course, as we have the arrow going up. Holy cow, you got to give me a second here. I just had to step out for a second. Okay. Here we go. Look at that in that channel as it bounces through that Mars line. Goes right up to Saturn, through Saturn to Mars, and stops. Now, when the price retraced, it didn't go any farther than the Saturn, which is kind of amazing. It just held that real tight. And as you can see, it bounced right up again, started going, staying within that Mars channel, and yet within the Saturn channel. So it hits the intersection of Saturn and Mars there and floats like it's trying to get enough momentum to carry it through that Saturn line into the next stage. Now, typically when they change, they will stay within another range again. So if it goes above that Saturn line, it's going to fight to either go through or come out of a Saturn line again. Now, a lot of times when the faster channels, like the Mars channels, come along, that is where you get your energy to change direction in the market. Sounds kind of complicated. It really isn't. These are great tools, though, when you combine them with the different tools in the series, especially the market geometry. Okay, so here we go. As you can see, the price just keeps bouncing off that Saturn line, going sideways. Now, that could be another channel created if you were to divide Saturn up into smaller degrees. But as you can see, as soon as it bounces out of that Mars trend, it almost, or the Mars channel, it almost builds up enough momentum to carry it through the Saturn line on the top. Okay, so now we're looking at this area, and it does burst right through there. And now when it bursts through that Saturn line, I guess that's the end of my information. I'll have to look into the future to see what it does. But you can imagine now, if you were to extend these lines out into the future, and you see these trends and formations happening, you have a good idea of where your support and resistance are going to be. Now, if you confirm that with a few other things, you could have something that really works as a tradable tool. Okay, so now we've looked at the wheels and we've applied them to the charts. It's very interesting. There are some other applications of the wheel. One in particular I found very interesting, and I just want to bring it up, show you how it works. You can research it yourself. I particularly do not use this application. I have found the square of 9 and the square of 4 to work a little bit better, but you can work it on the wheel. It's something to look at, and if you're combining all your tools, you might as well be looking at it. So here we go, chapter 6. We're going to look at the relationship on the wheel for the price. Now, a lot of times what happens is the price will end up returning to some kind of, I guess, relationship on the wheel, whether it's 90 degrees, 180 degrees, so forth. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to plot some points. And basically I just did the standard and poor. I took the daily and I found some different points to, I guess, plot. And they were not major highs and lows, but, you know, something significant. Okay, so here we go. My first one is 723.02. And that was at 797.70. And I'm just going to go and plot these on the wheel. Okay, the next was a high, 962.70 and 822. Then I went back to a low, and I just kept going back and forth. Here we go, another high, 938.87. Now I did round those off, so it would fall into the next category, the 938, or 939, I'm sorry. Okay, 873, so, you know, 801. Now this one was outside of the wheel, the 1156, but it is a division of that spoke, so that's where it would go. It would fall within that spoke. And of course, another low on 2004 in August. Oh my. Okay, so typically I decided to open up the spoke instead of that 15 degrees. Let's do it 30 and see if it relates a little bit better. And, you know, questionable. We put up that other angle there. You know, I don't know. It's not very specific. So I laid out all three. Would they fall within that 30 degrees? I don't know. All those angles look close. But what I have found is that when it comes to the 90 degree angle there, the square, the price typically falls on either side of that line. Something to look more into. I have found tools that are more efficient, more effective, and a little bit easier to use than doing this, but I thought I'd bring it up because it is something everybody should at least know about if they're going to research the wheel. So I could plot them all day, but typically the results keep ending up the same. What you want to do if you're going to use the wheel for the pricing like this, keep an eye for your 90 degree increments of change. Okay, I want to thank you. You know, obviously we're on some kind of journey together. If you're interested in learning these techniques and you're researching these techniques, we're both kind of in the same boat. So don't hesitate to send me an email or ask questions or anything. I am still trying to learn. At the rate I'm going, I'm probably going to be learning this stuff my whole life. If you're looking for a shortcut, Gann is not the way to do it. His methods are real. They can be applied to the market, but they are very intense. And they can be simplified with today's day and age and the computer and everything else, but really it takes time. And that's how he was so savvy in the market, is he spent the time to do it and know. Now you can look for further information on my website, markettiming.org. There are links to contact me there also. You can also direct any questions to markettimingmail@yahoo.com. I will do my best to get back to you on the emails as soon as possible. You got to understand, I get a lot of emails, so give me a day or two. Now I do have other Gann projects that I'm working on. I have some out. You might want to take a look for them. Some of them include the square of 9, triangles, advanced astrological techniques, market geometry. There's a whole series more. And like the square of 9, I don't just go into the square of 9. I try to hit every aspect of the square. The square of 9 is a huge one. It's not only how to use the square of 9, but how to apply squares to the market. It is a very interesting but very in-depth study. There are many aspects of the square that apply to the market. Same as a circle, but a little bit more complicated in some areas, simple in others. Triangles, I try to use all the tools that Gann somehow mentioned or related to, or that I've heard about. I either try to prove or disprove. It's very interesting. I also do advanced astrological techniques, and you'll find that very interesting. Market geometry, and I know a lot of this doesn't sound like it's directly related to Gann, but it all stems from Gann. Now, W.D. Gann was very into market geometry, and his technicals are a very advanced application of that. Now, I've tried to simplify a lot of that, as I do with all this stuff, to make it easy, and I try to weed out what doesn't work with what does work. So, I want to thank you again. From markettiming.org, this is Scott Allen Boersma. Please contact me with any questions. If you enjoyed this presentation or research series, please contact me for further ones. Have a great day, and good luck trading.